when we were searching for a topic, we saw that rape is highly underreported in both of our countries. In Germany, for instance, the research on dark figures says that 160,000 women get raped per year, and only 5% of them actually file a case, and the conviction rate in Germany is only 13%.
While sexual violence against women has been considered as a serious violation of women's rights, however, in Vietnam, due to so many factors such as humiliation, pain, risk of stigma that can lead to social exclusion, that so far based on the Vietnam Center for Reproduction and Family Health, women tend to treat that as a personal matter, and so far there is no cases of domestic rape that have been brought in front of the Vietnamese court. But why do we know that domestic rape exists? Because according to Vietnamese divorce lawyers, marital rape along with other forms of violence has been the underlying but unspoken reasons of many divorce proceedings.
Do you want your mattering map?
Yes. So before we go any further, here is my personal mattering map, my personal drawing. I am in the middle, and in the first circle, you can see that my most important thing, the thing that I consider as important to me is education, interpersonal other than family, media, gender, language, and cultures. In that first circle, the three things that are very important and that may affect on that may have an impact on every projects that I'm going to implement is interpersonal other than family, because for me it is also important. I like to discuss things with my friends, and I feel like I learn a lot when I discuss things with my friends. Education also, and media, because I graduate from media schools. That's why I understand the importance of the media in shaping and framing the public's mind. Culture, I put question marks because as a person who have an international background, sometimes I feel like my roots is up in the air. Sometimes I don't feel like I can identify myself with Vietnamese cultural practice. That may be a disadvantage to me when I implement any kind of project in Vietnam, especially in rural areas. In the second circle, I put family. Family is pretty not the priority to me, and that is also a disadvantage to me if I want to implement a project, because the Vietnamese culture really values families. And here, for my lack of experiences in terms of violence and abuse will also contribute as inconvenience to me, and I may encounter difficulties in identifying myself with the situation of women who are raped. So now Hannah will talk about that.
Now I go on with my personal mattering map. I put myself in the center to see what has influence on me. And here I put my privileges in my culture, like my family is middle class and my ethnicity, I'm German, so I don't face many difficulties in my culture, but I put it in a cloud because usually I'm not aware that I have privileges within my society. And here I put another influence, that's my international education and the languages I speak. This may also come from my privilege, but it's also adding up to my privilege. Then here I put the influence of media, especially social media, because it's very important for me to connect to people and it's also an important source for information. Then here I put family. It's a little further away because German culture is kind of considered as very individualistic, but still I feel I have a certain connection to my family and they have a certain influence. And same with religion. I consider myself being a Christian, but it doesn't have like that much influence on me, maybe because I consider myself to be more liberal. And here I put German culture, and I put it in brackets because I feel like there's not really a thing like German culture. Maybe it's also because I'm having certain privilege in my societies for what I am, and maybe I just regard it as the norm. I don't reflect on it so much, so German culture for me mainly is football, being punctual, beer, and Brezel. So then here I put violence. I have no direct experience with violence. The only thing I could connect to violence would be my involvement in organizations like the women's group I'm involved in. Okay, and then we compared our both measuring maps, and we found similarities and differences. The similarities are that we both don't have a direct experience with violence. We both have an international educational background. We both consider ourselves as feminists, and we are both frequent social media users. And both of us are not very attached to our own cultures, and we both are privileged in our societies, but we are not that aware of it. And the differences would be the influence of the family, because my culture is considered more individualistic and her culture is more community-based.
Now this is the map of the community of the Vietnamese community, and in the center it is this map when I state why women who are raped by their husband didn't report the cases to the police in Vietnam. In this map, you can see that there are two important factors. The first one is culture, and the second one is the law. Culture here is Confucius. It's not Santa Claus, but Confucius. So in our culture emphasizes on the fact that the men are always superior than women. Therefore, they have the right to ask for anything, especially when they want sex, and it's the duty of women to satisfy that. Otherwise, the man has also the right to go outside to look for a girlfriend or a prostitute. And this culture considers conjugal affair as a private matters. If you don't share it with other people, and other people don't have the right to ask for any kind of about that topic. Also kinship, which means that everything that related to the family, every decision that you're going to make that will affect your family, you have to consult that with other people. You cannot make the decision yourself, especially when it's related to the family honor. Here is the mask. I put the mask because family honor is the very important thing in our culture. The patriarchy in the Western culture are very different in what we consider in the East. Because in the East, in Vietnam, we believe that family honor protection is actually one of the distinctive patriarchal tools that will prevent women from pressing charge against the rapist, especially in this case, the rapist is your husband. And sex is all the time a very taboo subject that you're not supposed to talk about publicly. One of the challenges that I may encounter when implement any kind of projects is the secondary victimization, or we call it victim blaming. This secondary victimization can bring about a fact that women who decided to report, who think about reporting their husband, can encounter further trauma at the hand of the very people that they turn to for help. In this case, can be their families, relatives, or friends. So one of the things that we must think of when we implement our projects is not only to raise awareness about domestic rape, but also to change that victim blaming behavior. And research have found out that in the family, the role of the mother is really important. The other day, Chang just mentioned that in the family, if the child is spoiled, it's the fault of the grandmother. And it's true. In our culture, we believe that the mother is responsible for any kind of misfortunes of the daughter, of their children, especially daughter. So the daughter, and most of the case, the daughter tend to follow the example of her mother. And Here I put rural areas, there are big people with disabilities and money, because if women are born in rural areas with disability, she is also depending financially and physically on her husband. And these are the external factors that will prevent her to report her husband and destroy the family harmony. Here is one thing that we can explain that the other day professor talked about kind of psycho-violence circle, which means that after the husband do something, he can be, it's the honeymoon stage after that, try to be gentle, to do everything to soothe the wife down. And this is the case in so many family. In that situation, the mother is often the one who persuades their daughter to just let it go. And the law, because in the Vietnamese law, the Article 112 of the Penal Code mentioned about rape. What is rape? However, there is no mention about what is domestic rape and what can women react when domestic rape occurs. So that absence of the law is also a factor that women feel like they are not protected. So these are the map of Vietnam now.
Okay.
About Germany.
Now we turn to the German map. In the middle I have this iceberg symbol that I got from Terre de Femme, and I just modified it a little bit. And it's visualizing that there's like a lot of women who actually don't report their rape cases. It remains invisible. Then we have a smaller number of women who actually file a case, and an even smaller conviction rate that is 13%. And this small conviction rate actually adds to the number of women who keep silent about the rape because they're not willing to face a long and strenuous trial when the chance for conviction is really low. And then in my measuring map, I looked for other reasons why women are hesitant to report rape cases. And one of the main reasons is that the evidencing situation in rape cases is very difficult, because usually rape is committed without any witnesses being around. So it's actually the constellation that his statement is against her statement, and when she approaches the court or like family and friends knowing about it, she faces a lot of victim blaming. There's a lot of prejudices within the police, within the judicial system and the media. I would like to bring up the example of one famous weather reporter in Germany. His name is Kachelmann, and he was actually accused of raping his girlfriend. And the media and social media especially, a lot of people were commenting that she's actually just reporting this rape case because she wants to take revenge on him, because he wanted to break up with her. And another big point that holds women back from reporting in Germany is actually the legal situation. There's the paragraph 177 in the German Penal Code. And most of the rape cases in Germany actually happen within the domestic sphere. So it's the partner or a person that is known to the victim. And the problem is that a no is not enough. So the first requirement that a crime is regarded as rape is the lack of consent. But then the rapist also has to use force or the present threat for life, or the victim has to be in a defenseless situation. And the defenseless situation is very restrictive in interpretation. So the victim, it must be not possible for her to flee or call for help, that it's regarded as a defenseless situation. So the home is considered as a safe place. There's like several cases where, for example, there's one where the woman was raped at home. Her husband asked her to perform anal sex, but she was not willing to do that and clearly said no to him. But he was known for a history of violence, and the children were in the room next door, so she actually allowed him to perform that. And she was crying and not calling for help because she was scared for the safety of her children. And it was not considered rape in court because she had the opportunity to call for help because there were neighbors around. There's women's rights organization fighting that law, and they actually filed a petition that they handed to the Minister of Justice in May 2014. And they want a clear statement in the law that no should mean no. And they refer to international treaties like the Istanbul Convention or the CEDAW Convention that actually also says that a no has to mean no in law. And this is opposed by men's rights activists. who actually go back to the evidencing situation, saying that women could misuse this law to take revenge on men. Furthermore, the women's rights organization asked for anonymous securing of evidence and for support in process to encourage victims to actually approach the court. So for support in process, that could mean that women could freely choose their translators, that they get psychosocial support, that they can ask for the exclusion of the public, and that they have the opportunity for video trial. And the securing of evidence means that there's already a few facilities in German clinics that you can go there when you got raped and have an examination. And then the evidence is stored anonymously, and when you later on decide to file a case, you have the proof that you can use in court. That's actually also referring back to the evidencing situation here. And then on top here I added some vulnerable groups, like for example women with disabilities. Maybe she's hesitant to approach the court and file a case because maybe people won't take her serious, or she can't articulate what happened to her. And same with migrant women, like there's a lot of awareness now of rape cases or sexual violence happening in refugee shelters, for instance, that they can't, that language is a barrier to actually approach the police.
So after looking at both our map, you can see that the similarities in both Germany and Vietnam is that women hesitate to report the incidents of rape, and also the prevalence of prejudice and victim blaming is quite strong. And however, the differences is that in Vietnam, the kinship and family honor is really important. So we think of using a community-based approach for our projects. However, in Germany, because of the low chances of conviction of the perpetrator, so and because of the characteristic of the culture, so we will implement a very individualistic approach for this project.
Single victim is actually encouraged to approach the court.
So. Because of the sensitivity of the issues in Vietnam that I just mentioned, that we are going to implement a community-based approach for our projects, and we come up with 3 solutions. I mean 3 channels, 3 main communication channels. The first one is community-based meetings. The second one is social media, especially here Facebook. And the last one, we're going to use the national TV channel. So the first one, the community-based meetings. In Vietnam, every household belongs to what we call population group. And that population group is led by a community leader. One of the responsibilities of the community leaders is to solve conflicts between families or within a family. For example, a couple fights and they want to divorce. It is the responsibility of the community leaders, together with the members of the women's union locally, to come and talk with them and persuade them not to divorce. So we suggest that community leaders can have a sort of newlywed meetings, can have a sort of meetings with newlywed couples, in which they will brief them on potential marital issues, and they will elucidate them on the rights and the responsibility of each party. Because we don't have that kind of meetings, that kind of talk or education before marriage. And in that meeting, we think that it's very important for the community leader to explain the relevance of sexual consent, as well as the consequences of not respecting it. So why we think of because this is the image of the normal community meeting, is very large. But because the topic is quite sensitive, so it will intimidate couples. So we think that by having private meeting like this, it will first ensure the confidentiality, and it will also build a sort of trusting bond, trusting connection between the couple and the community leaders, so that if anything happens, especially the women, they know who they should turn to for help. And the second channel that we use is Facebook, because based on a survey in 2015, 44% of the population in Vietnam have internet connection, and 21% are using Facebook with the average of 3.1 hours per day. And there are more and more wives and mothers who use Facebook to read news and to share opinions on childcare, marriage, and also sexual life. Because Vietnamese women, just like women in any other part in the world, love stories. So we think that using Facebook to spread information, knowledge under the form of storytelling. In fact, we will collaborate with social influencers who are also hot Facebookers to have them write about marital rape, because each of these Facebookers, they often have thousands of followers, and the topic that they write about can be subject to further discussion. That's why we think that Facebook can be a very efficient tool to raise awareness about the rights and about the existence of something that we call marital rape. And the last thing is, this is before sex, love, and anything that is related to these two topics are never talked about on national TV. But recently in Vietnam, we have a very new program that called A Story at Late Night, that broadcasted in one of the three main TV channels and at 11 p.m. in which they talk about sex, they talk about couples issues. So and the guest speakers in that shows are often celebrities. So we think of, and many married women watch these shows. My mom, my grandmother also, and my friends also. So by mainstreaming marital rape, the topic of marital rape in this kind of talk show, it will help raise awareness about marital rape and also about the consequences, about the rights of women to act against those, incidents, violation.
Now the intervention for Germany. Actually, after the petition was filed in September of this year, the Minister of Justice, Heiko Maas, came up with a suggestion for reform, but it still didn't include the clear statement that no means no and that consent is of high importance. And even though there was a lot of pressure of the women's rights organization. So actually for my intervention, I thought of being part of a women's rights organization that actually was part of filing the petition, and now it's about the time to keep on advocating for the aims in the petition and to educate and raise awareness. So it's actually about the follow-up time of the petition. And I think it's important when we look at the law that we further keep on promoting the change in the law and don't go away from our statement that no should mean no within the law. And when it comes to the anonymous securing of evidence, I think it's really important that we educate women where they can actually go for this anonymous securing of evidence, that we give them, maybe on the website, that we tell them where they can go and how it works, and provide telephone numbers and addresses. And further keep on advocating for an expansion of the services. And for the process support, it's also about promoting change and also informing women who are actually at the moment within a case of rape, that they, in the trial, that we inform them about their rights and their opportunities. Yeah. And I put the media as a very important factor, and I also put talk shows. There's two main public TV stations in Germany, and they have talk shows on current political issues. And they also had some other issues like the prostitution debate, where they had feminist issues involved. So it would be a good idea to actually go to those talk shows to advocate for the cause. And then I put writing articles, like Emma, the newspaper of Alice Schwarzer, they actually wrote about the suggestion of reform, and that they clearly advocate for no means no within the law. And I put social media of high importance, because a lot of people are in the social media, and a lot of debate and shaping of opinion takes part in social media. And I put that it can be a very exhausting way to do that because feminism is not regarded as something good in the law, and there's a lot of men rights activists who oppose the change within the law. But it's also good to tackle the stereotypes and prejudices that are actually there and to speak about victim blaming, because like in the rape cases, the woman is always regarded as the one who wants to take revenge and making a false accusation. And actually it's the same rate like in other crimes that false accusations are made.
Yeah. Okay, so in conclusion, the thing is that in Vietnam, not like in Germany, they already start a petition, but for us, we are still in the stage of how to raise awareness and how to confront that cultural barriers that prevent women from reporting the rape case, especially domestic rape. So we have explained to you also how unofficial community-based approach should be used first to encourage the report of rape case before we use before we involve the law in order to provide better protection for women.
Yeah, and in Germany there's already a few women filing a case, and actually those cases prove that the law is fragmentary and in need of improvement and not in line with international treaties. So our approach in Germany has to be legalistic, but it shouldn't neglect that there are other factors as well preventing women from reporting their case, like victim blaming or prejudices within the media and judicial system, and that needs to be tackled as well.
That's the end of our presentation.